All right, to take this further, we are being joined by Colonel Reich Outzen. He's a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council and the James Stern Foundation. Colonel, welcome to the broadcast. Good to see you. I want to ask you, what do you make of this nuclear expansion that we are seeing by China? What do you think is at play here?
Well, it's a little reminiscent, and thank you for having me. It's good to be with you. It's a little reminiscent of the early stages of U.S.-Soviet nuclear competition in the late 1950s, early 1960s. Of course, the U.S. had the nuclear and atomic technology first. The Soviets stole that technology through espionage and then struggled to catch up, and they ultimately did develop an extensive arsenal of both explosive warheads and the missiles to put them on. And what we saw happen during the Cold War was an elaborate sort of mathematical equation where both sides, the Soviet Union and the U.S. and its allies, sought to deter one another by indicating that even if they were struck first, they would be able to hit back. And this led to mutual assured destruction and the fact that neither side saw a victory in the use of nuclear weapons. So I think China feels now that it's in a great power competition with the United States, and it needs something like what the Soviet Union had and Russia still has, which is its own nuclear deterrent against the U.S. and NATO. Now, interestingly, NATO has also recently talked about expanding the number of nuclear weapons that it has in storage, putting more of those into operational status. So we're seeing the reemergence of something that was very quiet for 30 or 35 years after the Cold War, which was this whole architecture and sort of system of interlocking threats and assurances that comprise nuclear deterrence.
Right. Colonel Outzen, we have two full-fledged wars going on as we speak. Then there are a few others that are proxy wars. And everyone keeps talking about the red line. And the red line being is that if at all one of the parties could use nuclear weapons. We have seen that happen in the past, and we have seen the kind of impact it has on humankind as a whole. How real is this red line? And we see the drills and everything. So how real is this red line is essentially my question.
Well, it has been traditionally very real. There's been a taboo. And even though during the Cold War, for instance, the United States and the Soviet Union, the Russians essentially now, were facing one another indirectly in a couple of places, in Vietnam, in Afghanistan. You know, we were contributing to the death of one another's soldiers very actively, but we would not approach under most circumstances that threat of the use of nuclear weapons because we didn't want to get into that escalatory cycle. What's happened in the last 2 years since the Russian invasion of Ukraine has been very loose talk on the part of Russia, where you have strategic commentators saying, well, maybe we should go ahead and use tactical nuclear weapons, the smaller nukes in Ukraine. I find that very, very irresponsible, and it shows a weakening of the taboo. I think whatever happens with these wars going on, nothing is worth the pain that would happen from a nuclear exchange, neither to the Russians nor for the U.S. and NATO. So I think NATO's doing the only thing it can do in that circumstance, which is to ramp up its own readiness so the Russians don't think that maybe there's softness in the U.S. deterrent posture.
All right, Colonel, good to speak to you. Thank you so much for your insights.
Good to be with you as well. Thank you.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.